I started the stream just for Sherry. And I always forget if it's Shari or Sherry. Who is Sherry? Despite the fact I've actually met her in real life, I always forget her name. How to say her name. Anyway. And meaning to look up this Talmud. So I'm wondering where I should start. Mm.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew.
How's it been?
It has been okay. More Zion talk. Gog and Magog, referring to the raptor. There were raptors named Gog and Magog.
Don't look at me.
Smoke detector battery sound. I have no idea what Nathan is saying. Sherry! Or is it Shari?
Sherry.
I thought it was Sherry, but I keep on forgetting.
Like the wine. Easy.
Ah, mon chéri.
There you go. Hi, Andrew.
How's it been?
Oh, pretty good.
That's good. Is that tea or coffee?
Tea.
Tea. All right.
Marshmallow root. Tea.
Ooh. Any good?
It doesn't taste like much, really, but it's really, really good for my tummy.
It's good. It's good. So I didn't.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
I
did
didn't.
what?
I didn't listen to any of this. Could you give like a summary?
I haven't said anything yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Go for it.
I just started. I mean, I haven't talked about Gog and Magog, and I'm not sure if I will, but I decided to name it Gog and Magog. My Matzli. The Talmud asks, what does God pray? Rav Zutra Bartovia said that Rav said, God says, may it be my will that my mercy will overcome my anger, and may my mercy prevail over my attributes, and may I conduct myself toward my children with the attribute of mercy, and may I enter before them beyond the letter of the law. Similarly, it was taught in a Tanaitic statement that Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha, the high priest, said, "Once on Yom Kippur, I entered the innermost sanctum, the Holy of Holies, to offer incense. And in a vision, I saw a Katriel Ka, the Lord of hosts, seated upon a high and exalted throne. And he said to me, 'Ishmael, my son, bless me.' I said to him the prayer that God prays. 'May it be your will that your mercy overcome your anger, and may your mercy prevail over your other attributes. And may you act toward your children with the attribute of mercy, and may you enter before them beyond the letter of the law.' The Holy One, blessed be he, nodded his head and accepted the blessing. This event teaches us that you should not take the blessing of an ordinary person lightly. And Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Yosei, 'From where is it derived that one must not placate a person while he is in the throes of his anger? Rather, he should mollify him after he has calmed down. As it is written, when following the sin of the golden calf, Moses requested divine presence rest upon Israel as it had previously. God said to him, 'My face will go and I will give you rest.' Rabbi Yochanan explained, 'The Holy One, blessed be he, said to Moses, wait until my face of wrath will pass, and I will grant your request. One must wait for a person's anger to pass as well.'" The Gemara asks, "And is there anger before the Holy One, blessed be he? Can we speak of God using the terms like anger?" The Gemara answers, yes, as it was taught in a Tanaitic statement. God becomes angry, as it is stated. God vindicates the righteous. God is furious every day. Psalm 7:12. How much time does his anger last? God's anger lasts a moment. And how long is a moment? 158,888th of an hour. That is a moment. The Gemara adds, and no creature can precisely determine the moments that God becomes angry, except for Balaam the wicked, about whom it is written, he who knows the knowledge of the Most High. Hello, Trey.
Hello. Are you not tall enough to change the smoke detector?
My smoke detector is the one making that sound?
I think so, man.
Yeah, I don't think it's mine.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm wondering if the construction crew didn't do something. Wow. The the bot took forever to notice that I was streaming.
Yeah, it's only done one instance.
Yeah, and it's been 15 minutes. What's wrong with that bot? Trey, fix it.
Maybe your smoke alarm is interfering with it.
Dominic is sure it's my smoke detector. And that was an interesting passage. I think I'll read the whole Bavli during Thanksgiving break. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, I did hear the thing. Yeah. So they ripped out my bathroom today. I have no bathroom.
Hmm.
Well, at least you know God's not there.
God is not in my bathroom. This is true.
Yep. You know the joke I'm referencing, right?
Nope.
When Elijah basically says, "Where's your God?"
Mhm.
Is he in the outhouse?
Aha. Yeah, now I'm noticing that chirping. I'm guessing it's louder for you guys because the microphone picks it up more than.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
correct. So what's the purpose of the stream?
So I was talking to Sherry, and I said maybe I should stream, and Sherry said you should. And when Sherry says I should do something, I darn do it.
Mhm.
Yes,
I was
Connie, I
asking.
am renovating the bathroom.
I was asking Jacob dumb questions about Zionism, and because I don't really know anything about it. So
So I listened to Rabbi Breitowitz had a stream earlier today. Yes, Sherry is
yeah,
spitting wool,
yeah,
and and Rabbi Breitowitz rarely talks about the eschaton, but he was talking about the eschaton,
yeah.
and
What did he
and
say?
he said that he quoted the Maharal of Prague. Apparently, the Maharal of Prague um, was explaining Gog and Magog in that. Um, so Ishmael and Esav, or Edom, are not any of the 70 nations, but they, at least to some opinions, are the entirety of the 70 nations. Apparently, the Gaon Mevilna, Rabbi Elijah Kramer, um, said that half of 35 of the nations are Esav and 35 of the nations are Edom. And um, traditionally, Jewish tradition has um, analogized those to Islam and Christianity. And so Rabbi Bradowitz was talking about the holiday of Sukkot, which just ended, um, and how during the week of Sukkot, the um, there are 70 bulls that are brought as offerings on behalf of the 70 nations. And he was explaining uh, various views on why and how that is. But he explained that um, the two spiritual wars that we have to fight are against um, Edom, which is like Esau was he when he sold his birthright, he said, "I'm going to die, so what do I care about a birthright?" Um, and so that is a materialistic spirituality, which says, um, "I'm going to die anyway, so let me just um, eat this porridge, right? Just take whatever there is in the world." And whereas Ishmael is the opposite, and Ishmael is, or specifically Islam, is the idea of what do I care about this world? I if I can if I can die for the next world, or I can, sacrifice this world for the next, let me do that. But that's not really what God wants. And so Rabbi Bidowitz was saying that we have to recognize whatever adversary is able to affect us does so because there's a inner way in which we are connected to what is wrong with what animates that adversary. And so we have to be the opposite of those things that we see are wrong. He specifically pointed to the verse, I guess it's in Proverbs, which says, Kemai hapanim el hapanim, ken lev adam libnei adam. Like the waters of a reflecting pool are to a man's face, so is the heart of man to man. If you show gratitude, then other people will show gratitude, and if you show anger, other people will show anger. And yeah, he said people should put that on their refrigerators. So do that, Trey. Put that on your refrigerator.
Super random question.
Super random.
Wonderful. So in the portion of the Talmud you were quoting, you said God's anger is what, 580,880 something of an hour?
58,888 of an hour.
Wonderful. So is there like a, forgive me if I'm using this term wrong, a gematria or something for that? Or
Oh, trust me, there are so many gematrias for that. There.
give me one. Give me one.
Oh, well, I guess I could look up what the Ben Yehoyada has to say. Hello, Jules. How are you doing, Jules?
Doing all right, you guys?
We have actually had our first donations, and actually Garth donated so much money that we have to send him an acknowledgement by law. So we're gonna have to figure out how to do that.
Would just be an email, right?
We're not gonna do
Yes. Why not?
We're gonna send a card.
Also, another question.
Cards are expensive.
Just take it from the money that Garth sent. Say it's a business expense.
Yes, it will be a business expense, but like PayPal already took like $1.50. Oops, I just told people how much Garth donated. Actually, no, Garth donated more. I told them that, well, you have to send money when people, you have to send an acknowledgement when people send at least $75. And he did send more than $75.
It's like the story of the parable of Jesus and the widow.
What's the story of the parable of Jesus and the widow?
Well, actually, it was a little bit, I guess. There's basically a widow giving in the temple, and she only gets 1 penny. And Jesus says that she gave the most because all she had was 1 penny and she had no other possessions. She was a widow.
Garth has much more than a penny.
Well, I
Anyways,
think the point was you'd have these rich sort of individuals who they donate these vast sums, but it was a fraction proportional to their actual like total wealth. But there was this one widow who had, basically the equivalent of like a fraction of a penny to her name, and she gave all of that. And Christ was saying that that donation was more valuable than any of the donations from any of the rich, because it was all she had and it was her love.
Beautiful.
Jules, are you going to Florida?
To Florida? Oh, for what?
The event, the symbolic meaning event.
Oh, I never have time to go to any of those things. I'm too caught up with work.
You're not even coming to the Lords of Spirit one?
Well, imagine paying why would I pay hundreds of dollars just to see Father Stephen when I see him every week?
I'm so jealous.
I'm spending hundreds of dollars to see Father Stephen.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing though, is you only ever get to catch him online. I have to see him every week.
You
Well,
poor man.
We are.
I'll take your spot if you don't want it.
I take the spot. I need the spot, man. I need the spot.
Well, I mean, you don't even need to take a spot. You can just move to Louisiana.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could. We could all move to Louisiana. This is true.
Lafayette actually is a wonderful place to live.
I don't think there's a Chabad house in Fayetteville. In fact, I'm pretty sure there isn't.
No, there's only a Reformed synagogue in Lafayette.
Yeah, Lafayette. That's it. Yeah.
In New Orleans, there is an Orthodox synagogue.
New Orleans definitely has a Chabad house. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to try to translate this thing, which I understand not at all, but this is the Ben Yehoyada on that part of the Talmud.
If you,
Yeah.
I'm screwed. Just find one that you understand, man.
Not gonna happen.
Oh well, then we're all screwed. All right.
We are
Don't
all
worry.
screwed, but that's
Then
beside
don't
the
worry. Then don't worry.
V'chama rega, and how long is a moment? Hinei Zohar Kadosh Piresh Kel Shahu Chesed Zoem Bekochot Hadini. The Holy Zohar explains that the God who is kindness. This is my mother. You guys talk. I'll be back.
Okay. I do have a question for you, Jules.
Oh, sure thing.
Technically, this is more for Father Stephen, but I would be interested in what you said. I was watching a conversation, and I wanted to clarify. If Father Stephen, basically, if you ask Father Stephen, okay, how do I, let's say I'm on the fence with a bunch of stuff. Would he give me a rational argument, or would he just say, you need to encounter Christ? Because from what I understand, it's very much you need to encounter Christ. Am I correct on understanding that?
So, what do you mean by you're on the fence? Like, you're on the fence about just some kind of presupposition, or you're on the fence of like converting? Because those are two very different on the fences.
Andrew, do you remember what I asked?
I think you mean about like doctrine or something, right? Like if you're on the fence about something like that, yeah? No?
Yeah.
Okay, but the question is, so
I'll go deeper. I'll go deeper than that.
okay.
I would say that I was taught a specific view of inspiration, right? And I can understand all the intellectual arguments and everything like that. To understand inspiration, do you think you could give a logical argument like this is what inspiration is? Or do you just say you have to encounter Christ to understand it?
Let's see. So, do you mean that in the sense that like the Bible is inspired? Like, is it like it's Is it talking with respect to the Bible or with like prophetic sort of experiences?
I'm just talking about the Bible because I guess, from what I understand, a lot of what Father Stephen says is that, or at least I heard the term that God used the text for each certain part. Like there's the Protestant idea that if we get to the original manuscripts, everything's going to be hunky dory. But from what I understand, is that the text takes on a more transformational role over time, uh, as well as the vocal role.
Let's see. I don't know what specifically. My experience from what I've learned about the Bible with him kind of going forward is that the best approach you want to take to the Bible depends on how you approach language in general. So a lot of Protestant and even Muslim sort of epistemology kind of treats language as though it's prescriptive. X word in Greek means this one thing every single time. And so if we can get the precise words that the apostles or the Old Testament prophets said, then we can have the unadulterated, perfect sort of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And while that is a commendable, goal to go for, it's not really realistic because that's not how language works.
Mm-hmm.
So a better way to approach the Bible is to understand that language is descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you familiar? Have you ever learned any second or third languages?
A little bit.
Okay. Have you ever come across, like, you're trying to learn a language and you've realized that the way that the language kind of processes information and describes the world around it can be a bit different?
Oh yeah, like I would say in Spanish with like how each word has a feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the heart of it, though, even though the way things are being processed, the way things are being described is different, they're still all describing the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good approach you want to take with the Bible. So translation wise, there are some that are better than others, but we can understand sort of that a translation is correct or it's in the right direction if we see a wide consensus across all the translations, or in essence, they're all kind of describing the same thing. Like, if I have 99 manuscripts
Mm-hmm.
and they describe King David, whenever he faced Goliath, they describe him as either like a little kid in 2 of them, or in the other 97 of them, they describe him as kind of being a young man. Even though the Hebrew word kind of is like a youth,
Mm-hmm.
the context that you kind of see across the board has more to do with being a young man. I don't know if you're getting my logic here, but if it's more so what's going on in the aggregate.
Okay. I'm not.
Because we want to make sure that what's being described is kind of consistent across the board.
Right.
Can I put my 2 cents in?
Sure.
Okay. I think an important idea is that language is transjective, right? You talked about how it's proscriptive, not descriptive, and
It's descriptive, not prescriptive.
Yeah. About how different languages process things differently and yada yada yada, but they're describing the same thing. And it's borne out how you have, you'd say, well, there's one priest I know who argues that this is why different traditions have different canons. How the, you could say, the means by which you receive revelation is part of revelation itself. Up to you how you take that.
Well, the only thing is that that's not really the reason why we have differences in the canon.
Yeah.
The actual reason why we have differences in the canon is that different diaspora Hebrew groups had access to different scrolls just based on the means of their availability. So the Christian groups, that arose in those areas,
I don't think it's just based off availability. But let me finish out the point. The reason why we place so much emphasis on these texts is that they are, eternally relevant, right? What can I say? They're the best. But yeah, for this whole availability thing, I don't think so.
Okay, well then, I'll posit you this: we have writings from church fathers, we have apocryphal texts that aren't, because all the canon is just what's read liturgically.
Uh-huh.
So we'll have sort of post-apostolic ante-Nicene church fathers who are really close timeline-wise, just a hair bit after the last few books of the New Testament, where what they say is eternally relevant. It's definitely as Christian as it comes, and it doesn't contradict any of the previous scripture, but it's not included because it's not in the lectionary. It's not read during the liturgical cycle.
Okay. I mean,
I'm just talking about the Old Testament canon difference, because across the board, the New Testament canon is the same.
New Testament canon is the same. Okay.
Yeah. The only real point where there was contention about the New Testament canon was with the Apocalypse of St. John.
Yeah.
Because there was questions of whether or not it was Kiliast.
Yeah. Do you guys read it? Like, when do you guys read it? Like, when because I'm Coptic, when I think of reading St. John, I just think of like Good Friday when we just go through the whole book. Like, is there any points at which you guys like definitely read it, or is it spread out?
Typically, it's not in the Antiochian lectionary. There might be some exceptions where it does. I'd have to check. I'm not a liturgics expert, but just in the norm, because I show up for Orthros and liturgy, so I'm usually there for the full cycle of services each week, and I can't remember the last time that we've done a reading from the Apocalypse.
Oh. Unbased.
Well, to understand the Antiochian tradition, you have to understand that the Apocalypse wasn't really accepted in the East because of fears of Chiliasm.
Yeah, I get it.
St. Andrew of Caesarea's commentary on it,
Mm-hmm.
where he kind of ripped off Achilliast, and he just sort of
yeah.
he took out the non-heretical parts.
I've heard.
I don't know what that is. What's a Kilias?
It's a type of premillennialism.
Yeah.
Ah, right.
So the idea is that we currently are. So the Chiliast position is that there's the period before Christ reigns amongst his enemies. That is what we allegedly would be in now. And then there's a literal 1,000 years of peace. And the idea is that you hear this in dispensational Protestant circles. You can hear it among some Baptists. I don't know if it's a big Presbyterian or Dutch Reformed thing, but the idea is that there's 1,000 years of like unrivaled pleasure. Like there's no suffering on the planet. Everything is wonderful. Technically sin doesn't even really work anymore. Like it's like you can indulge in all of the passions and not sin.
The millennium.
Yeah, for the 1,000 years, and then the eschaton hits, after that.
Yeah.
In the Orthodox Church, we reject this. We believe that we're amillennials, so we believe that Christ is currently reigning amongst his enemies.
Let's go.
And what we mean by that is that if you kind of look around you, paganism's kind of been shifted out to the margins of the world. It's either in small pockets or it's kind of contained in specific areas. It's not the religion of the world like it was before Christ's incarnation and crucifixion. But it still exists. So it's, that's how Satan's still present in the world, is that there is still paganism. It's just, it's in the margins, and Satan's kind of desperate for winning souls, and trying to, drag them down with him.
He's coping and seething.
He is in fact coping and seething.
Okay. A more clear idea. My question: How would the Orthodox Church or Stephen DeYoung rationalize with an unbeliever? I guess. So let's say we got a deistic God going on, right? Because I feel as though how like Protestants look at the text, very much trying to sort of construct it in a certain way where they can make this sort of historical case for Jesus and then resurrect or rose. I have a feeling that's sort of out of Young's argumentation, right? Like I think that he views the Gospels as a little bit more messy is an interesting word, but a little bit more specific.
So I think I get where you're leaning towards. So what I would say is that a lot of people in modern Protestant apologetic circles lean towards kind of a Kinham type of approach.
Yes.
Where it's like, I can rationalize that the flood happened through the scientific method. But the problem is that a lot of the spiritual realities and nuances aren't just physical, they're also occurring in the invisible creation.
Right.
To where no matter how many instruments I pull out, I'm not going to be able to like detect an angel or things like that.
Right.
And so also the whole point of writing these things down, these miracles, because especially in ancient times with like clay tablets and like before the printing press, it's extremely expensive to like write down and make copies of things. So the whole point of writing down all of these miracles is that it's extraordinary. It's the things that you don't expect to happen in the material creation, but it does anyway. So it kind of defeats the a posteriori kind of approach that science does, where you're trying to explain that as plausible. Like the whole point of us writing it down is that it's not plausible. So I'd address that for starters. And then I'd say that I would kind of reject that approach, and I'd lean more towards St. Gregory in his Catechetical Discourse. This is technically, in the English translation, it says to the atheist, but technically there's no atheists in the time of St. Gregory. It was more so the pagans who didn't have sort of a super essential understanding of God. They just had the pagan gods who were kind of subject to kind of like the cycle of sort of usurpation and creation. But when you're discussing apologetics with an atheist, the focus is more on challenging this idea of a continuous causal chain without any sort of beginning. So if I have a series of effects but no cause, then you're kind of violating cause and effect. Because for every physical sort of effect, there must be a metaphysical cause, at some point, if you go back far enough.
Right. We're on the prime mover argument. I'm saying I'm a deist. I'm coming up to you, and I'm saying, tell me why the Orthodox Church is true. There's God somewhere. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Do I?
There's several different approaches that you can do.
I
So-
mean, are you gonna just say to me, go into church, pray, and if it happens, it happens? Or are you going to give me some rationalist argumentation?
I mean, there are arguments. I mean, Dr. Bo Branson has arguments in favor of a trinity from an analytical philosophy perspective. It's mostly he goes into like necessary beings and how the trinity are all necessary beings. So the idea is that in every conceivable universe, a necessary being would be a being that must exist in all universes, or else that universe just can't possibly exist. He goes into depth in this further, but also I don't have a PhD in analytical philosophy, so I can't give the full nuances. But
Fountain of comfort.
yeah, that is Fountain of Comfort.
We love to see.
Let's see.
Oh, Jacob, you're muted.
Still muted. I guess we're on double mute.
Sorry. So this or this?
Wait, can you go back to the big one? Probably. I feel like if the bigger one was like pushed up a hair because it's touching the Yode Vav at the bottom.
Oh, what? Oh, well, this one's bigger than that one.
Yeah, I know. If like if there's like one that was in between the sizes, because
Well, it's not about the size; it's about the font.
Font.
the font, I can't even see the difference in the font. It's like
I mean, I kind of like the second one more.
The second.
Yeah, the first
oh yeah,
one.
the second one's better.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the font.
I don't like the O's on the first one. Like, look at that. It's got that little whatever connecting line to it.
Yeah, the first one's more cursive and serif, and this one's.
I really like
Well,
the
this
second-
also is. So you guys like this one better?
yeah,
I like that better.
it looks more professional in that font.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and you guys like this as the color?
Like kind of like the gray fountain and like the pink heart.
I was thinking like a more powder blue than this dark blue and
Yeah.
pink.
Yeah, but like then the fountain color is, we already got blue for that.
Yeah.
What about like try and go for maybe like an orange or a yellow for like the sun, and then like a blue for the fountain? I don't know if that. I'm not a color theory expert.
Here's a different font.
I like the other one.
This one.
Yeah.
Mm.
Super random question, Jacob.
Super random answer.
So I was listening to James McGrath, the Mandaean guy, and he thinks that like baptism for forgiveness of sins is a very weird thing. Is it a weird thing?
There are people who think that Judaism was heavily influenced by Christianity. So the question becomes, if you are a secular materialist, like, was this something that Christianity like innovated and then Judaism followed along with? I don't think so, but that's that's how the secularists would probably explain it.
Well, how would you like relate like the mikvah?
So, I mean, going to the mikvah is. So we have Tannaitic statements going back at least to the 2nd century, which refer to going to the mikvah as a process of repentance and cleansing of sin, um, as well as spiritual. I mean, the two are related, and the two have always been related, I would say. And frankly, 4QMMT seems to, yeah, I mean, yeah, there you go, 4QMMT. That fixes it.
Oh yeah, everyone knows 4QMMT. Of course.
4QMMT is a document that was apparently very important to the people in Qumran. It is apparently a letter from the leader of the Qumran community to the Sadducee high priest in the temple. And the shocking thing about it is it's so Pharisaic that they initially thought it was a Pharisaic document. Which, since it was a letter from an Essene to a Sadducee, makes it very clear that the entire discussion was like. So I actually believe this. So when I used to study Talmud, I used to think, okay, the sages of the Talmud, hundreds of years after the destruction of the temple, were trying to understand what happened during temple times. We have our artists. We'll talk about temple times after our artist tells us
Oh no,
what
that
he's
sounded
thinking.
so much cooler than what I was working on. How
I mean,
are you guys doing?
You know,
Okay, and you?
good.
Yeah, doing well.
So Trey is the secretary of Fountain of Comfort, and Jules
Oh, awesome.
is on the board of directors. So you have 2 out of the 5 people, the other 3 being Tim, Yosef, and Gage, who actually make decisions for Fountain of Comfort.
Awesome. Well, I'm humbled and honored to be contributing in this small way to what you guys are doing. So
I promise the other people are older. Don't worry. We're not all
it's not all a bunch of Zoomers.
Yeah.
I really want to. I would really love to see the whatchamacallit, the faces, if it's not too hard to make it clear that it's 2 crying faces, because I really like that symbolism.
Oh wait, in the hearts, it's like 2 crying faces.
Looking at each other, yeah.
I can kind of see it now you point out. I feel like they might need eyebrows for it to be like.
Yeah, it's not clear. I mean, okay, this is an AI generated image. I couldn't do anything with it. Matt has vectorized it, and so it's now something that can actually be messed with. But yeah, so like,
Why would they be crying if they're in a heart? Shouldn't they be crying if they're in the water?
Mans has never been in a relationship. Sheesh.
Yeah, but those would be tears of joy. Hopefully.
yeah, I can work on the little droplets that are more vertical, the highest most droplets, and kind of swoop them more like crescent moons. I think that's what's given the sad eye feel, and maybe those secondary little ones have to go so that the crescent moon ones can kind of be the eye and the only dot in that area.
Frankly, personally, I'm not wedded to those two flourishes below the fountain, but I don't know.
What? I like it.
You like the flourishes?
Yeah.
Okay.
trying to think.
Well, the easy thing is, now that it's vectorized, I can just take it off and you guys can see it without it.
And I was thinking of maybe trying lighter blues and pinks instead of the dark blue and red.
Okay.
What do you think? You're the artiste.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of lighter colors. This feels a little. There's a lot of contrast for, for what you guys are doing. Like, it doesn't feel very comforting to get that hard with the navy and the hot red like that. So we can go softer. That makes sense.
I don't actually. I technically don't get a vote in this discussion. There's 5 people who get votes: Trey, Jules, and 3 other people. So I'm guessing if I really hated it, they wouldn't. They probably wouldn't overrule me. But
Well, we have a heart, Jacob.
you have a heart.
We have a heart. We will not just torture you by giving you a horrible looking logo.
I thank you.
Is that Sherry? Oh my goodness.
And she's
Hi, Dad.
making
Hey.
making wool thread as we speak
Oh wow.
from scratch.
Hey Matt, I have one idea, and I'd like to float it by you.
Yeah, please.
What if the background kind of circle was made into like a sun? Maybe with like some kind of orange or yellow, maybe some lines kind of, demarcating like the corona. Would that be a good design implementation, or?
Well, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, so we're playing with metaphors in juxtaposition. We've got 3 right now. There's the sad face, there's the heart, and there's the fountain. We can add a 4th. There's no wrong answer, but it could become challenging to you. I don't know. In a way, I would just, whatever we end up doing with the logo, we'd want there to be a primary metaphor that's being played with the fountain. And everything else, if there is anything else, it feels very secondary and that's obvious to the reader. And if we change the full circle, the circle would probably, if the circle becomes a sun, the sun would probably be the dominant metaphor, I think.
Well, my idea was that the sun kind of would be like the contrasting kind of heat and pressure that kind of bears down on people in life. The fountain is like the cooling waters that refreshes them.
That's cute. I still think it's. I'm
you don't have to. I'm just throwing it out.
I'm tending with Matt.
It's a neat idea.
It's a neat idea. I don't want to make it even more complex than it is.
Okay.
If anything, I actually would say simplify the image a bit.
Yeah.
And apparently this is the font that Trey and Jules like, and I think it's good too. Yeah.
Is that young serif?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Young serif.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I guess we're going with young serif. And Trey will have to change the entire webpage completely.
It's a Google font. It's free, so.
Yay!
Okay, well, I'll hit Adobe Illustrator tomorrow, and I'm gonna I'll work on the sad faces, keeping it subtle, and I'll get you also an option that removes the flourish at the bottom, just so that we can just know, that we want to keep it or not. We don't have to wonder anymore. We can see what it's like without it and see if that's missing something. And
And
Yeah.
if you could like try the lighter colors.
absolutely lighter colors.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Can do. Okay. Well, thanks for having me on. Thanks for is this
Thank
live?
you.
Oh, you
This
guys are
is
streaming this. That's
live. Yes, we are streaming.
cool.
We were just talking about the end times. So
Oh, yeah. End time's very hot right now.
they are. Yeah.
I'll catch the replay then, so you don't have to re-explain it, and because my phone's dying. But I'm sure you guys had a lot of interesting things to say.
Actually, we didn't actually talk about the end times very much.
Oh.
It's the topic, but at the same time, I think the best solution to worrying about the end times is actually doing something productive to make people's lives better.
Mm. Yeah, planting that tree. Yeah.
Planting that tree.
Tree of comfort.
Mm.
It grows out of the fountain. Apparently, trees grow out of fountains.
Yeah, we should have like vines at the edge of the fountain,
So Chezi is like, no. The Hebrew word is Mayan Menachem, and a Mayan is a spring, not a fountain, and that's too much of a fountain, and he wants it more looking like a spring.
Spring of comfort doesn't roll off the tongue.
This is very true.
We can get to the descriptive versus prescriptive conversation with Hezi later.
And Nathaniel's right. Get married, have children.
Mm.
Get cooties.
But before I go, is it just me, or does someone have a fire alarm battery they have to change? Has that been brought up?
Yes, several times.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Just making sure. I'm just looking out for you.
I think when the people came and did construction today, something happened, and that's why it's chirping. I think, unless I just haven't No, you guys would have noticed yesterday, right? You would have noticed yesterday. So yeah, it's just today. It's new, and I have no bathroom.
That's a bigger issue, I think, probably.
Hopefully, they will be fixing it within the next 3 weeks. So I'm
Until
getting a
then?
renovation. Well, until then, there is a bathroom in the building that I can use, and I bought a gym membership today so I can go take a shower. And my sister's house isn't that far away, so yeah.
Sorry, that's challenging.
I can go spend time with Andrew at UCLA. I'm joking. No, I mean, my bathroom needed to be renovated, so yeah, it's being renovated.
Oh, good. That's a cause for celebration, and that's fun.
Yay!
Okay, you guys have a good night. Thank you so much for the feedback. I'll be getting you guys updates tomorrow.
You are my favorite logo artist in the entire world.
I've been missing you guys. I've been gone for a couple months with a new job, and it's nice to have an excuse to come on stream and say hi to you guys again.
The beard's looking good.
Oh, thanks.
We're gonna have to actually discuss the end times next time you have some time to talk about end times.
That'd be lovely. I'd probably mostly be listening, but All right, see you guys
Later.
Good one.
By the way, CW, there's a link in the description where you can start donating to Fountain of Comfort.
Give me money. Speaking of end times, I was always told, and I think you agreed, Jacob, that 607 was the predicted idea of Babylon, but no one really accepts that. Oh no, destruction of the temple. You know what I'm talking about?
The first temple was
Yeah.
in. So, Rabbi Wine, in one of his history books, has a note where he says, general history goes according to various calendars that were available and an attempt at reconstruction using the available history that way.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees no reason why to prefer that calculation to the Talmud's calculation. And I agree. Like, there is a academic presumption that if we calculate things the way, like in some new way, it must be better than how it was done before.
Okay.
And it's like, I see no reason to believe that. I think the Jewish scribes did as well, if not better, of a job of recording things than anybody else in the world.
Right. Okay, but that was a prophecy at the very least. I'm not misunderstanding the Hebrew in that idea. Like he did say.
What do you mean?
70.
70 years, Daniel. Yeah, I mean, I think the secularists believe Daniel's a forgery, don't they?
I don't know, because like I don't know. I brought up the whole idea of like, because I always assumed that like there was a prophecy about Babylon, that Babylon would never be inhabited again. But I guess you said that I'm misreading that really isn't a prophecy.
Well, it's being inhabited right now.
I mean, the idea that Babylon wouldn't be like that.
I can pull up the scripture. I mean,
Like
I
the
don't know if we're
culture
going
of
to get
Babylon is
sidetracked.
gone. Like, no
I
one's
think you're
worshiping
talking.
marbles
I
anymore.
think you're talking about Daniel, aren't you?
Let me find it. Probably already did this, but Babylon is destroyed, and they will whistle at it.
So yeah, the power structure of Babylon's definitely gone, and no one worships the Babylonian gods anymore. So there's that. But like, in the region, there are like Assyrian, people.
I'm gonna find it. This is some JW.org reasoning, though probably wrong, but
I'm just really impressed that when it comes to the thread that Sherry is making, she grew her own grass, which turned into that thread.
you grew grass.
She grew grass that she fed to sheep to get the wool. Or is that goat's wool? Is that sheep
No,
wool or
this is
goat?
like from a sheep.
Yeah,
From
so
a
she
sheep.
actually grew the grass, which she fed the sheep, which grew that wool, which she sheared, which she is turning into thread, which she is going to turn into like some Canadian hat thingy. What do they call it? Canuck or whatever?
See that? There.
Beautiful.
Yarn.
Yarn.
And
That's quite a yarn.
And the ground is like bronze to us.
Sherry goes above and beyond the call to touch grass.
you see that, Jacob?
Yes, those are
Hats?
mittens. Oh, those are hats?
Hats?
What do you guys call them? Toques or something?
Well, I call it a hat. But,
You call
yeah.
it.
Mittens. Mittens, hats.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're right.
I mean, she started with inanimate objects,
And
water,
this,
water and dirt, and now she made those.
Wow.
see
Really
that?
survived.
That's the raw fleece from one of my sheep. It's the
You
most
didn't make
beautiful thing on earth.
you didn't make your own dyes though. That's cheating. You have
No,
to
I don't die.
you have to make
I
your
don't
own
die.
dyes.
I mean,
I do
you definitely have me
have-
beat.
I do.
Yeah. I'm not even close.
I'll show you.
I'd have to learn from Sherry to how to be the next Ted Kaczynski. Be a good guide with me on that, you know?
Well, I mean, that is kind of some of the consequences of, Cain's killing of Abel and founding the cities, if you think about it, is this modernity where we don't know how to grow and make, our materials or food,
Mm,
Can you see that?
Wow. Yeah.
This is
All yarn?
this is a lichen. No, this is a lichen that grows on trees.
mm.
Yeah.
And I can use it as a dye on my wool, and it'll dye it
Wow.
about the same color.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought I had you when I talked about the dyes. But you win. Sherry always wins.
Ta-da.
She does. Wow.
I don't know if you've seen Sherry's dogs. They're tiny. I mean, her dog Hulk couldn't be a pound over 200.
He's just a little boy.
Yeah.
And what breeds are they?
They are
And-
Hulk is Akbash and Kangal. They're both Turkish dogs, Turkish breeds.
See, I'm not
And-
familiar with either of those.
Yeah, they're Turkish Shepherd, guardian dogs. And
Yeah, Kangals
if you just
are.
look up, I'll show
Oh,
you
whoa.
one. Hang on.
Well, I'm looking at a picture
get
of
it
one
done.
right now. They're
Kangals are the native dogs from the place where my family's from.
Anatolian Shepherd Turkish Kangal dog. It's bigger than the guy. Like, wait. Oh, wait,
Yes.
can you see that?
Kangals are big.
Let me say hi. I only have Seda. This is Seda.
And I said,
Seda. Say hi. Say hi, Seda. Let's say hi. Look, who's that? Who's that?
you wouldn't expect
There you go.
like Turkish dogs have such a thick sort of pelt.
Well, I mean, they live outside and during. Yeah, they live outside with the herd, and I think they're used in the mountains mostly to
Okay.
defend
in the
against
mountain-
bears. Yeah.
Yeah, that dog can definitely fight a bear.
There
I
are
was just
definitely
drinking my coffee cup.
things. There are definitely things from Isaiah which are contemporary. I mean, like Isaiah 7. Like, if you want to ask Nach stuff, you have to ask Yosef. I don't know my Nach very well.
Anyways, I think just upon reading Isaiah 13:20
Mm.
that I got the context wrong.
What
I think I was-
is that? What is that? No.
Nach is prophets and writings. In Judaism, we refer to the Bible as Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im,
Oh,
Ketuvim.
Yeah.
and Nachas for girls.
You know what was really You know what was really interesting is somebody told me, and it was like a really cool illustration that
I am never gonna hear the end of this.
that the Torah is like a shot of whiskey. The prophets are a rum and coke, and then the rest is sort of like a nice fruity drink.
I don't know. Ezekiel gets kind of wild.
Huh. I like that. I like that.
Prophecy,
Where'd you get that?
You know what's crazy? So at my job, I didn't have access to any outside thing, but I found that so weird. There's this daily devotional place inside, like, my work's secured computers, and one of them they invited a rabbi to basically explain Judaism, and so I listened to that all at work.
Which rabbi?
I'll find it when I look it up. He's from Australia.
I would be very interested to know which from Australia. So, if he's from Australia, he's likely Orthodox.
Yeah, he's Orthodox.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
But it really helped me. Like, my mind was blown during that illustration because it helps me like really understand the Jewish view.
Yeah, I like that analogy. I think I'm going to use it
You should.
if I don't die in the fire tonight.
Why? Why are you gonna die in the fire?
Because there's no fire alarm.
Oh,
Do I have? Did I buy? I think I bought batteries. I think I have batteries somewhere.
Let's see.
you
Are
know,
you in a house or an apartment, Jacob?
What?
You're in a house or an apartment.
I am in an apartment.
Okay, so then they require you to have fire insurance anyway.
No, actually, we own this place, and we. Even though I am an insurance agent, this place isn't insured.
hey,
That's not very good advertising, Jacob.
Actually, I mean, part of the problem is California insurance market is just so effed up. It really is.
Yeah.
All of our insurance companies are leaving California. But yes, condo insurance is pretty cheap, so I should probably have it.
Yeah, for mine it's like $100 a year, so it's not bad.
Yeah. In Louisiana, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Baton Rouge, so I'm technically in one of the ritzier parts of.
Yeah, but I'm guessing Louisiana insurance companies are even worse than California. You guys have really bad government in Louisiana.
Yeah, that's true. I would know. I audit a lot of local governments.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how to actually. So, like now we have a Venmo account and a PayPal account and a bank account, and we're gonna have to start keeping accounts and like stuff. And I have no idea. I guess we should probably end up using something like QuickBooks or something.
QuickBooks Online is probably going to be the easiest thing. That's relatively cheap. There's like Intact, but governments use that. I don't know if you're gonna have multiple funds.
We'll talk about it at the board meeting.
Yeah, but there's some options. If you just have one fund that you really want to worry about, then definitely QBO. That's pretty common for nonprofits anyway. But if you're expecting like complex like transfers between funds and stuff, you're gonna want something a little bit more.
I don't think so. No, the only thing I'm concerned about is the one bank account we have now. So I am the only authorized signer on it right now.
Mhm.
And they told me that adding any signers means that person also gets to withdraw funds, as opposed to it requires two people to withdraw funds. And so if we do start getting a significant amount of money, I would want to at least have some place where I can put the money where uh, we will be sure that at least two people will be necessary, so that not that I suspect myself of absconding with the money, but I don't want to make people have to trust me for that.
Well, something I'd recommend is, are you familiar with Bill.com?
No.
Bill.com is a purchase order sort of a website that you can set up an account with. And it has all kinds of different capabilities. But one that I think might interest you is that it'll send email notifications to all the relevant people anytime there's any kind of disbursement or withdrawal.
Mm.
So that way everyone's notified. But also you can
Yeah, so if I steal the money, you guys will know immediately.
yeah, and also you can upload like your invoices and receipts with your check stubs like attached to it, so that way you can make an easy audit trail, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you guys all are supposed to have access to all the records. The board members are.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have access to all of the records. The only reason it would be nice for you guys to get notifications is so that you don't have to constantly look.
Well, the notifications will mostly be for like disbursements and stuff, but Bill.com has more capabilities from that. You can do like auto withdrawals and stuff like that, or it's a full ranged purchase order type website.
We'll
Yes.
talk about it during the board meeting.
Yeah.
Trey is falling asleep.
No, I'm not. I am a little distracted. I'm trying to get my costume for Halloween.
Halloween?
Oh, don't say it too loud.
You mean Sam Hain?
No,
Is this your first time since you were 16?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Happy Halloween. But we call it Reformation Day around here.
Technically, my Halloween was 3 months ago because our calendar has All Saints Day, I think, in like May or June.
Ah, yeah. Orthodox Halloween.
Which actually sounds cooler.
Well, the Orthodox have to have every holiday be at least a little bit off.
Well, that's because we're on the new Julian calendar as opposed to the Gregorian.
You could just use the AM calendar like the Jews. Anno Mundi.
Well, I'm sorry, there's all these bishops that are involved. I don't have any say in any of that.
And the old calendarists. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sherry, did you say that you heard from Teddy? Of course, Sherry might be gone or doing something important. But I thought she said.
No, I just sent him a DM.
Okay. Yeah.
So I hope I hear from him.
I haven't heard from him for a long time, but I'm not on BOM and he's not on my server. Teddy also lives in Israel. So Jules, what have you been up to?
Let's see. I've been working, getting old.
Yeah, you're gonna turn 23 soon. What is it?
No, what is it? I mean, I'm only 24, but in usually that's just what my dad says. Is like if you ever ask him what he's doing, he's just working and getting old.
Okay.
And so whenever you hear that your entire life, eventually you just take whatever your dad says and run with it.
Quoting your father is perfectly fine if you're Orthodox.
Yes. But no, I was working on a few clients, working on a sheriff's office right now. It's been a little hectic, but
How many hours a week do you work?
technically I'm salary, so it's supposed to be 40, but we have billable hour goals. So on different months, there's supposed to be more hours that we are directly working on a client than others. March is technically the busiest, where we're supposed to have 210 billable hours for the month, and that's hours where you're working on a client. So doing like trainings are considered like non-billable, you know. So I think just for October it ramps up to like 170, 175. I have to check, but
That's over 40 hours a week.
let's see, 175 divided by how many days are in October? 31.
31.
See, 175. Like there's like 43 hours a week.
That you have to bill, which
Mhm.
means you're supposedly working like 45 to 50 hours.
It's not that hard to do billable work. Like it's pretty rare to have just downtime with the amount of workflow that we have. So it's pretty easy to meet your billable hour goals. It just matters if you stick around for long enough.
Chezi loves billable hours.
Yeah. Lawyers have way worse billable hour goals than accountants ever will.
Yeah, but as a lawyer, you can bill in increments. So I was talking to people, and they were telling me they bill in 6-minute increments. So like, if you work 7 minutes, that's 12 minutes.
We bill in 15-minute increments.
Aha.
So we just break everything up into like quarter. So you like 0.25 an hour, half, 0.75, 1, and so on.
I see, said the blind man. Clear as mud.
I don't know if do insurance agents have billable hours?
No, insurance is completely commission,
Oh,
which
Yeah.
is part of the reason I hate it. But
yeah.
yeah.
Do we actually want to talk about the end times?
We can talk about the end times.
Let's see. Okay, I guess I wasn't here for any of the conversation that was going on beforehand, but you've read like the Book of Revelation, Jacob. I'm assuming like the whole thing.
I think so. Yeah.
How-
I mean, I've probably skimmed through it, but yes.
Okay. What particular things, I guess, would surprise you, and what particular things have you read that you've seen out of it that feel deeply Talmudic?
I wouldn't say necessarily Talmudic. It's obviously a Jewish text. Like the Book of Revelations is one of the more Jewish texts. I think the Book of Hebrews similarly quotes the Hebrew Bible a lot, but when you read the Book of Hebrews, it's obvious to me that the person who's writing doesn't know his Hebrew Bible very well. And funnily enough, Trey's friend, who's a professor of New Testament studies and history and did his PhD on the author of Hebrews, kind of agrees. He's like, yeah, the author of Hebrews and Philo, both of them obviously didn't know Hebrew. Which, and then we were having this discussion, and he says he's like, yeah, it's a shame that Judaism didn't pick up their thinking more. And then he tells me that they both obviously didn't know their Hebrew and make obvious mistakes in the Hebrew, which makes me like, well, you just explained why, they were not popular among Jews. Like, frankly, Galatians 3, where Paul talks about, and it says seed in the singular, not in the plural. Like, I read that and it's just so cringe and facepalm that it's like, and so the book of Revelation is not like that. And frankly, I think the underlying, so, I mean, obviously this is text criticism, but I agree with it, that the Gospel of John, like, I think you can distinguish between the edits in the Gospel of John with what must have been the primary text underneath the Gospel of John. And it seems to me that the original Gospel of John and the book of Revelation were Jewish texts of people who actually knew their Hebrew Bible and knew Hebrew. And so it's not like I find it that, I mean, I always like, even 30 years ago, I found Revelation to be the most relatable part of the Christian Bible. But I think the reading of it, especially by people who read it very literally, I mean, you weren't here when I was reading from the Talmud, but I was reading some Agadic texts, right? And it's like, for example, here, let's pull up what we were looking at. For example, it says, the Talmud asks, what does God pray? Rab Zutra Bar Tovia said that Rav said, may it be my will that my mercy will overcome my anger, and may my mercy prevail over my other attributes, and may I conduct myself toward my children with the attribute of mercy, and may I enter before them before the letter of the law. Similarly, it is taught in a Baraita that Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha, the high priest, said, once on Yom Kippur, I entered the innermost sanctum, the Holy of Holies, to offer incense, and I saw a Katriel Ka, the Lord of hosts, seated upon a high and exalted throne. And he said to me, Ishmael, my son, bless me. I said to him, may it be your will that your mercy overcome your anger, and may your mercy prevail over your other attributes. Did I forget to show? Okay, you guys are seeing it. Other attributes, and may you act toward your children with the attribute of mercy, and may you enter before them before the letter of the law. The Holy One, blessed be he, nodded his head and accepted the blessing. This event teaches you that you should not take the blessing of an ordinary person lightly. And Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Yosef, from where is it derived that one must not placate a person while he is in the throes of his anger. As it is written, my face will go and I will give you rest. Rabbi Yochanan explained that the Holy One, blessed be he, said to Moses, wait until my face of wrath will pass and I will grant you your request. The Gemara asks, and is there anger before the Holy One, blessed be he? Can we speak of God using terms like anger? It answers yes, as it is was taught. God becomes angry, as it is stated in Psalms 7:12. God is furious every day. How much time does his anger last? God's anger lasts a moment. And how long is a moment? 158,888th of an hour. That is a moment. The Gemara adds, and no creature can precisely determine the moments when God becomes angry, except for Balaam the wicked, about whom it is written, he who knows the knowledge of the Most High. Now, like, when you read that, if you take that incredibly literally, you'll end up with the type of various eschatological silliness that you see in Protestant circles about the seven trumps and the, like, this is going to happen and that's going to happen and that's why 88 reasons why 1988 has to be like,
Yeah.
it's like
1975, get it right. 1914, get the dates right. Come on. If you're gonna
2011 with Carol, what was it? Harold Camping.
whatever. They, like, these people, they come up with, they are like, I actually have had Christians be like, hey, like, it talks about God's head, and so that's Jesus. And it's like, obviously, we're not talking about God literally shaking his head, right? Obviously, but yeah, and so, like, reading Revelation as a Jew, I would say, is not so surprising. It's that category of literature called Agadita is so foreign to so many people who take it so literally.
Yeah. Like, typically the Orthodox approach to understanding Revelation is that you have the seen and the unseen creation, you know, and the Gospels are definitely written, you know, from the perspective of like the seen creation, you know, what you and I going in a time machine and we go to the time of Christ, like what we would see normally. But St. John saw the spiritual reality that was going on in the invisible creation. You know, so he sees, you know, the dragon being like Satan chasing after. It would be like Herod. In the same way that Herod tried to kill Christ and they had to flee into the desert, that's also the woman escaping the dragon and fleeing with the child. Or the beast with the I believe is what the several blasphemous heads and the crown. That's like Rome, that power structure oppressing. You know, there's spiritual realities too physical.
Antonio!
Hey,
Hello. How's the baby?
really well. He's asleep right now.
Sleeping sleeping babies lie. Okay. So this is the famous story of the oven of Achnai. And where I am not going to read the entire thing. It is very, very long. We will start towards the middle. But this is one of the most famous stories in the Talmud. Apropos of verbal mistreatment, we learned in a Mishnah there, if one cut an earthenware oven midwise into segments and placed sand between each and every segment, Rabbi Eliezer deemed it ritually pure because of the sand odor, and the rabbis deemed it ritually impure. And this was known as the oven of Hechnai. The Gemara asks, what is the relevance of Hechnai, a snake, in this context? Rabbi Yehuda said that Shmuel said, it is characterized in that manner due to the fact that the rabbis surrounded it with their statements like this snake, which often forms a coil when at rest, and deemed it impure. The sages taught on that day, when they discussed this matter, Rabbi Eliezer answered all possible answers in the world to support his opinion, but the rabbis did not accept his explanations from him. Now, you have to understand that whenever the Talmud is talking about a named rabbi versus a group of anonymous rabbis, there's kind of an aspersion to, like, it's kind of obvious that while Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim, each of the opinions have their merit, like the anonymous rabbis aren't acting precisely as you would wish, or they would be named. Anyway, so Rabbi Eliezer is answering them everything, and they're just not listening.
I know this story. I love this story.
It's a famous story. After failing to convince the rabbis logically, Rabbi Eliezer said to them, if the halacha is in accordance with my opinion, this carob tree will prove it. The carob tree was uprooted from its place 100 cubits, and some say 400 cubits. The rabbis said to him, one does not cite halachic proof from the carob tree. Now, the rest of the story is actually a very interesting story. I love this story. We can talk about the story, but there's a reason I bring this story up, especially when I'm talking with people in the Orthodox Jewish community who take things more literally than I think it is good to take them.
The water in Genesis.
The fact is that we believe everything that is contained in the Talmud has an element of truth to it. Does that mean that, like, the carob tree jumping, well, was it 100 cubits or was it 400 cubits or was it 250 cubits? Like, what exactly happened there? And why is it not being recorded correctly? Like, why is it some say this, some say that, right? If there is truth there, if there's something there to teach us, right? Like, if it's important, like, in a modernist sense, like, how is this acceptable that some say 400 cubits and some say 100 cubits? Like, which one is it? Right? Like, it can't be both. and if it's 250 cubits, good night, Sherry. If it's 250 cubits or whatever, and it's important, then it should have said it, right? But that's not the point. Like, this story is not a story about how many feet the carob tree jumped, right? That's not what's going on here. And if you demand that it be true on every level in a childish, simplistic reading, you're just misunderstanding the genre of writing that is this type of story. And so, I mean, same thing with stories of the Baal Shem Tov, right? Like, famously, and Muslims say similar things about the Sunnah. If you believe every story of the Baal Shem Tov, you're a simpleton. If you believe none of them, you're a heretic. Like, you have to understand, like, what the proper context in terms of the truth value of each story is. And so, for example, the Torah says about Moses, God says, I speak to every other prophet in dreams and visions, and I speak to Moses face to face. Well, if that's so, right, then it means that the lesser prophets have some way in which their prophecy is less clear and true than Moses. So, what does that do to Isaiah? Does that mean that Isaiah is untrue? Like, no, but it doesn't have as much of a fundamental and resonating truth value to it as Deuteronomy does. And being able to properly recognize that something can be true, and that doesn't mean that when you read it, you understood what you understood was pshat, was the simple reading. And that's actually why I think, like, Talmudic study is so important. You can buy every cookbook in the world. You can memorize every cookbook in the world. You will not know how to cook and read new cookbooks until you've been in a kitchen and you've actually spent the time learning how to cook, right? Like, physically, procedurally understanding that. And so, for example, and this happens a lot, when a Christian says Jews confuse the Talmud with scripture, right? It's like, that sounds to me like saying somebody confused a cookbook with a novel. Like, can't confuse a cookbook with a novel. They're just completely different things, right? And so Talmud is a hermeneutic. It's a way of approaching various things in the tradition. And yes, it has content to it, but if when I say Talmud, you think of those volumes I have over there of the Babylonian Talmud. First of all, vast majority of people, when they say Talmud, they think Babylonian Talmud, and they don't even know the Jerusalem Talmud exists. And they've never held a volume of Talmud in their hand, but they're sure it's a book. And they've never seen a page of it, but they think it's like a page of any other book they've seen. And guess what? First of all, it doesn't look even remotely like any page of any book you've probably seen in your life. But when I say Jesus is Talmudic, and frankly Paul is not, it's because it's not a book. Like the Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud was finished like around the year 400, 300, 350, something like that, right? And the Babylonian Talmud was around 500. So how can I say Jesus is Talmudic when he's hundreds of years before the Mishnah, which was at 200? And frankly, I think Jesus lived 100 years before Christians think Jesus lived. So like, I'm saying he's Talmudic 300 years before there was even the Mishnah. The Talmud is a commentary on the Mishnah. But I can say that because Talmud is what I believe is the process, the hermeneutic, the way of approaching scripture that was handed down from God to Moses, to Joshua, to the elders, to the prophets, and from generation to generation. And you can recognize that type of thinking. And to some extent, I would say, like, the book of Hebrews, I think, is trying to emulate it. I think Romans chapter 7 and Father Stephen has promised many times to walk me through it and show me how like it actually is Talmudic, but you can recognize the attempt to be Talmudic that is just so obviously like a failure. It's like, it's offensive. It's like offensive. Like, it's like you take a bite out of chocolate cake and it tastes like a lemon. And you might be somebody who likes lemon, but like, it's supposed to be chocolate cake, and because it's supposed to be chocolate cake and it tastes like lemon, it's like, right? And so
what's the chocolate cake on Gog and Magog?
Chocolate cake on Gog and Magog. Good question. I mean, Rabbi Breidowitz, the reason I named it Gog and Magog is Rabbi Breidowitz, he did a stream today, which where he did talk about Gog and Magog. And he doesn't usually talk about eschatology very often, but he felt it necessary to do so. And so I named my stream similarly. I would say the most important thing he said is that ultimately we have to pay attention to our connection and our capacity to repent, which is highlighted by seeing how the adversary is successful because the adversary only has the capacity to be successful against you if you are in some way feeding it. That was I would say the essence of his speech, which I mean he certainly he talks. I definitely recommend listening to it. I included a link on the Discord, but
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out.
yeah,
It's a topic of interest for me.
uh-huh.
It's definitely a topic of interest for me.
Why?
It's actually a part of my own fiction writing. So
Eh.
yeah,
Are you a writer, Antonio?
I would not call myself a writer. No.
Are you trying to do your own spin on like Left Behind or?
No. This is definitely more like medieval fantasy
Okay.
genre. So yeah, no. Fascinated with Gog and Magog. Fascinated with Amalek for similar reasons, but I mean more than just fiction with Amalek, for sure.
Yeah.
So Rabbi Breitowitz has several times expressed the idea that Amalek is Gog and Magog, which is
See, that's what I think too.
Esav and Ishmael, or Christianity and Islam.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
This is part of my thing of actually we should I wonder I should probably ask Fawad to come on the channel so we can talk. I don't know what his thoughts are about what's going on. Like, we generally do not discuss Zionism and stuff like that. I certainly tried to stay away from it as much as I could when I was going on EA Dawa. But there's a reason why I try to. There's a reason why I try to engage Muslims in this low corner, which is I think the combination of Judaism, of Christianity and Islam, is what points to the truth of Judaism. I think if the world only had Christianity or only had Islam, both of them would have more of a truth claim than they do. But the fact that the two of them exist is as far as I'm concerned, it's a indication towards the truth of Judaism as the I don't want to say synthesis, because since Judaism is actually the origin, but like you have kind of like this kind of dialectic going on, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, whereas I actually think it's more Jewish teaching had to be seen through a glass darkly by Christians and Jews so that it could disseminate in different ways. And it is Christians and Muslims. It's getting late and I'm tired. But when Christianity and Islam come back together is when I think they actually eventually understand what's that Judaism's true.
It's like inverse dialectic.
How do you reconcile that with sort of the evidence that points that Islam's very derivative of Christianity, in the sense that they still believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They still believe in the perpetual virginity of Mary. They still affirm the virgin birth. And it's, if anything, it's derivative of Nazarene or Nesorian, depending on how you pronounce it.
I think Robert Eisenman is correct. I think that Islam is the actual remnant of Christianity as it was taught by the family of Jesus before Paul hijacked it.
Okay. The only problem is that we do have Saint Irenaeus, who was a student of Polycarp, who was a student of Saint John, who definitely is preaching about Christ's divinity.
Yeah, but all of that is John is obviously much younger than Paul.
What?
But Saint John also was.
Wait. John is younger than Paul? What do you mean?
You didn't know this?
No. I mean, are we talking writings?
No, both writing. I mean, the writings of John are obviously after the writings of Paul.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the actual gospel. I'm just saying that Saint John the disciple had a student, which was Saint Polycarp, and Saint Irenaeus was the student of Saint Polycarp.
Yeah, I think I think all of that comes from after Paul hijacked Christianity.
So where would the corruption begin? So was it
With
Saint
Paul.
Polycarp?
Okay, you know what's an interesting idea?
No.
This feels like this whole historical Jesus. Like, how much influence do we know that Paul had? Like how much do we really know? What were the initial disagreements? How did each
Saint
of these
Ignatius of Antioch was the child who sat on Christ's lap, whenever he was talking about the virtue of having a faith like a little child. We have ante-Nicene saints who, aren't necessarily being influenced by Saint Paul.
I mean, I think all of Pauline Christianity is an invention of Pauline Christians.
I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's such thing as Pauline or Johannine or Petrine. I don't.
No, there's only two forms of Christianity. There's Jesus' Christianity, and then there's Paul's Christianity.
Okay, so then you're Islam with Saint Paul. Okay.
Why can't there also be Peter's Christianity or all the other Christianities? Why are you just saying that?
Well, I mean, James Tabor, his book. You were looking at the book.
Yeah.
Dynasty.
Oh yeah. Didn't he also say that Jesus had a father and he was a Roman soldier?
Yeah, he believes it was Pantera. Yeah.
Where was that script? Where was the evidence for that?
He has. I mean, the book has where he gets his ideas from. I'm not saying I agree with him about everything. I am, and frankly, yeah. I mean, Jesus must have had a father.
Yeah.
I don't believe Jesus was born of a virgin.
Why not?
Well, his father is God.
Well, first of all, because there's no Jewish concept that being born of a virgin is possible or good. That this is a completely Greek, mythological concept.
I don't know how it's Greek mythological though, because I can't think of any in the tradition of Greek hero worship. I can't think of any who were born of a virgin specifically.
I mean, just the idea that being a virgin is a good thing is Greek.
Not really.
It's not a good thing in Judaism at all.
No, in Greek mythology, you maybe have the Vestal Virgin, which was a very temporary position, but that was just for maintaining a sense of ritual purity because you're in the temple of Apollo. But other than that, like even that position, they're supposed to be married off later. There's no glory or virtue in virginity. Even in pagan Rome, the fact that the idea of a lifelong consecrated virgin was considered an act of treason.
I still consider it an act of treason.
Wait, how was like you got to wind back? How is virginity not a good idea in Judaism, or at the very least, like especially of a female idea? Because when
Hold on, no. A woman being a virgin until she gets married is a good thing.
Right.
That's but until she gets married, marriage is considered a basic thing all human beings are supposed, like the Talmud and then the Code of Jewish Law says until you are married you are not considered a human being.
Well, I was gonna say, did Elijah ever marry?
I'm pretty sure Elijah was definitely married.
Well, to
I'm
who?
pretty sure of that.
I can't think of him. I'm pretty sure he never married.
Actually, you may be right about that.
I think there were people who did not marry, but that was
Well, yeah, but
considered.
Elijah specifically was one of the Old Testament saints who literally didn't die. He was he was assumed he was assumed by God, and he was unmarried. So to say that virginity was a degradation in Jewish thought since the beginning, I don't think
No. Okay, hold on. A person could be less than perfect in their cycle of their life and still be a good person. That is the entire Jewish, like our entire Bible is about every single person has some faults. There are 0 faultless people in the Jewish Bible.
Okay. But
0.
the other thing though is to say, like, I don't see how if you're going your entire life without being married is sort of a degradation.
Yeah.
Moses, who definitely died, even though his body was assumed after his death.
Okay.
Then why would Elijah not even experience death? How would he have
where is this calculation coming from? What is your presupposition that if a person, if someone is less than Moses and Moses died, therefore that person must also die?
But I guess my thing is, I'm seeing things on the perspective of like theos. So Saint Elijah appears to be, by virtue of the way that he lived his life, the way in which he participated in wonder working, and the way that he was assumed into heaven, sort of taking the corpus of his life into consideration, and taking the corpus of Saint Moses' life into consideration. It is seen that it appears to me that Saint Elijah was kind of further along in sort of the spiritual path.
I see where you are going wrong. This is Jonathan Pageau's very common. He talks about the perfect story. And anyone who believes in a perfect story is an idolater. Because there is no perfect story. There is no single path of theosis.
There's no one
single
role model.
path.
What?
There's no one role model.
No, I agree that there's no single path. But my point in saying that is that even though there are multiple paths to sort of theosis, my only question would be, you seem to be saying that not living a life and not being married is a degradation. So how can one ascend to such spiritual heights while participating in what you appear to be telling me to be a serious degradation?
Because every single human being ever has a serious degradation. That is a fundamental belief in Judaism, is the righteous man falls 7 times. So there is no perfect person who lives completely innocently without sinning.
Well, I'm not even saying Saint Elijah was completely perfect and never sinned. I'm just saying that, like, you seem to be telling me.
Failing to marry is failing to live the ideal of in Judaism. That is, it is a failure. Yes,
Okay.
in being unmarried is a failure. Yes.
So are you being demonized? Like, are you falling away from theosis towards demonization by not being married? Is my question.
No, like
Okay, then.
even, but are you being demonized when David was David demonized when he sinned with Bathsheba?
Yeah.
Okay, then Elijah was demonized when he didn't get married.
Okay, but then my whole point in this entire train of logic is that if he's sinning to like the degree that you're telling me that he's sinning, then that doesn't seem to jive with the spiritual heights that's being described.
Uh, please tell me about the spiritual heights of David.
No, I'm talking about Saint Elijah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the spiritual heights of David. How did David reach any spiritual height whatsoever after being basically accused in the Bible of basically every bad sin out there?
Well, it was his repentance.
Ah.
But once again, like my whole point is I'm not saying that there's like because Roman Catholics get caught up in this whole idea that celibacy is the one true way and that everything else is kind of just the crumbs that the rest of humans take because that's all they can handle. My point is saying that like I don't think celibacy is an impediment towards theosis is my whole point.
There's nothing that's murder is not an impediment towards theosis.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
I mean, David, to the extent that one can say he committed murder.
But that was the one thing he did wrong.
It wasn't the one thing he did wrong.
No. I mean, look at the reference. It says that because of this, David was righteous in all of his eyes except for how he handled Uriah. That's like his one mistakes. Because he didn't have repentance from Uriah, basically saying that his reaction toward his decision was blocking him.
No, that was the one thing he hadn't set it right amongst his many sins at that point. Because it's about the repentance.
I know.
Okay. You guys can continue discussing this, and when you guys leave, the stream will hopefully end by itself. I'm actually crashing here, and I have a really hard day tomorrow. So I am going to leave, and you guys can discuss this further. I will end with myself by saying, it sounds to me like you're repeatedly making the mistake that Jonathan Tajot constantly makes, which is seeing comparable paths towards theosis, whereas what is perfectly clear is that each path towards theosis is in some way different, unique, and not superior and or inferior, but other. And so the path of a woman towards theosis is different from a path of a man to theosis. The path of Elijah towards theosis is different from the path of Moses or David or anybody else, which is why you cannot have one perfect story. which is why Christianity falls into idolatry. Because you have Jesus as this one perfect human.
Okay. Is God perfect?
Well, it's not even one perfect
Is
human.
God the perfect story?
God cannot be contained in a story.
Was
Jesus
it idolatry to say that there's
contained
one
in a
God?
story.
Then?
There we go.
Well, I mean, if you're going to say Jesus can't be contained in a story, then you basically are just nullifying the incarnation, which I agree with you. The ascension does, in fact, negate the incarnation.
Oh,
But, okay, I
If
am
you had all
falling asleep as
We
we
should let
speak.
Jacob go to sleep.
anyway,
You guys have fun discussing this.
Yes.
Later.
Good night. But we'll respectfully disagree.
Whew, it's over.
you know what I'm saying, right? Where it says like none of the scrolls can contain what he did, blah blah blah.
Well, it's technically all that's just saying is it's not like a big theological point. It's just saying he did other stuff that we didn't write down. That's all. But I mean, first off, with the whole Jesus being idolatrous because he's just a perfect man is wrong, because Christ is God who assumed human activities. Like Uzziah isn't like a common mistake that a lot of people think when it comes to nature is that your nature is this set of implicit categories, I have hair, or I have eyes, so that makes me human, or whatever categories people can make up. But really, your nature is the activities or the things that you do. So Christ is God who assumed human activities, and some of those being localized in time, some of those involve being born of a woman, it's not quite just that he's just a great human.
Jules, is that your Discord blowing up?
It might be.
I thought it was Jacob's the whole time.
I did too. I was like, dang.
It did, man.
It's a few things.
I don't even know how to turn off my Discord notifications on my laptop.
It's fine. I was just wondering who it was because I think it's
Okay.
funny.
Let's see.
It reminded me. I was watching a stream of like a video game contest, and whenever they'd switch to this one guy's perspective, he had some person in his chat that somehow had found his like Xbox Live account, and so while he's competing for like several tens of thousands of dollars in like the finals of this tournament, he's just getting spammed with the Xbox Live notification sound like every half second. It was absolutely hilarious. That's what you reminded me of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I'm in a few Discords. Let me see which one's like.
We can
I
tell.
think it's the two Orthodox Discords that I'm in.
You know what? Now I'm standing up. Now I'm amped up. I'm thinking that. Okay. You challenge me and standing up. Later. Don't you have a child to care for?
Yeah, he's sleepy right now. I'm probably gonna join him soon.
Yeah.
This conversation made me sleepy.
I don't think we've met Antonio.
Probably not, but you do look familiar. Maybe I saw you on a stream.
I've been on a couple streams. Yeah.
Yeah.
What area are you in the country?
I'm in Washington.
You're from Washington? Washington. Okay. I'm in Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What do you do for work?
I work at Costco.
Okay.
Yeah. Picked up an electrical apprenticeship a few months ago, too.
Okay. I work in public accounting.
Nice.
Yeah.
How does that treat you?
Yeah, it's all right. It's kind of dry, but you know,
What would you
paying
like to be
bills.
doing?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like if money wasn't a problem, I'd probably be like a philosophy professor or something. 'Cause I feel like that's one of those good, like, you'll never make money, but you actually get to like argue and bicker with people all day long, and like at least something meaningful.
Is that why
Yeah.
you come here?
Partially, yeah. That is some of the draw.
Are you married or do you have a girlfriend?
I'm single at the present moment.
So that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. But no, I'm Eastern Orthodox. I don't know if you know Father Stephen.
Yeah, I've his Joseph Jacob.
Yeah. I'm one of his parishioners.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's how I met Jacob.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now
So what do you
yourself?
think? What do you think the big beef is with Judaism and Eastern Orthodox?
Well, according to Jacob, it's all St. Paul's fault that he you just heard him a few minutes ago. It sounds like he heard like the Lutheran position on a lot of St. Paul, and he assumes that's the given.
There's our resident Lutheran.
Oh, Charlie's a Lutheran? Oh,
Yeah.
Charlie, I hate to say it, but consubstantiation doesn't make sense.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, a lot of this whole, because he keeps hearing the whole works of the law thing, and it sounds kind of dispensational to him.
I think the big thing, I'm not sure how it differs in EO, but it's like the religion of Jesus was, well, Jesus was Jewish, right? And talked about Judaism, purportedly. And then when Paul enters the picture, it's less about the teachings of Jesus and more about the death and resurrection of Jesus and the significance of that. And then what that means exactly depends on where you fall in Christianity. That's kind of like the gist that I understand it to be.
I mean, I see how you can come upon that because in a lot of biblical academia, they will kind of compartmentalize parts of the New Testament. Well, here's Pauline theology if you only read St. Paul, and here's Johannine if you read St. John, and then you have Petrine if you only read St. Peter's epistles. And sometimes they kind of pit each other against, they pit like these sort of hypothetical schools of Pauline Christians versus the Johannine, and this is their beliefs. When, I mean, you're kind of grasping at like, you're taking like two twigs, you're kind of rubbing them together, and you're expecting like fire after like a couple rubs. You know, there's a lot more, there's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of sort of meat that's, you know, kind of being missed that's still on the bone.
So what's the meat?
Well, the idea is that it doesn't really make sense within the time frame that you're going to have these several competing schools.
So let me ask you this: what do you think it always was, or like Christian theology?
Okay, how it develops, or like
just what do you think Christianity is all about, and for the most part has been that way?
Okay, so let's see, how do I begin this? The easy thing to say is everyone thinks that there was like one singular Judaism, and then there was this whole tradition, and then Christians kind of came around and then just changed stuff around. That's like that's a very common conclusion that a lot of people like to bring up. When historically, you'll actually realize that throughout the diaspora and in different Jewish communities, they had different understandings, particularly around God, especially when we have Moses' encounters in Exodus. You'll have some that will have the modalist position that, and you see this in the Jewish idea of like the Partsufim, you know, the long and the short face, you know, the Zeranpin and the Isyaranpin, where, you know, the person that spoke face to face with Moses was like the short face, and then God in his full glory that, if Moses looked at, he would die, would be like the long face. You'd see that idea. In different communities, you would also see the idea of the two powers of heaven, the idea that there's like at least two hypostases or two persons, two divine persons, not like two big humans. And then you have other competing ideas. Maybe that the person in Daniel also, who's sitting on the throne, who in the likeness of a man, was a created being. These were all competing ideas that were up for debate, during the early Second Temple period. And so what we see when Christ comes and sort of the revelation of who he is, what his relationship with God the Father is, you see that one of those sort of interpretations is the correct one. And that's the idea of the two powers in heaven. And so Christ had his apostles had their students, and those students kept having students, in perpetuity. And these still other competing Judaisms, who partially may have accepted Christianity or they've converted, into whatever disparate sect, because you'd have like Arians would have been one of the outcroppings from one of the communities that believed that the second power was a created being. And then you have different modalist sects. But what we would say in Orthodoxy is that there definitely is a continuous tradition, and there are students of the apostles and students of those students who have preserved and safeguarded the teachings of Christ, and also the understanding of the Old Testament, the correct one, up until this day.
I think I'm tracking.
Okay. What tradition do you come from?
I'm Noahide.
You're Noahide?
Yeah.
Were you Christian before that, or were you?
No, I was atheist.
You're atheist?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, what led you from atheism to Noahide?
That's actually a video I plan on making.
Okay.
It's kind of a long story. There's a lot of layers to it.
Okay.
But I guess the short version is 5 years ago, red pilled in the culture war,
Okay.
somehow ended up into median crisis territory, and got into religion, or at least religious discussion, I should say.
Okay. And you met Jacob?
Yeah, well, I actually met Jacob from the very beginning, when I was still like in the more political phase, really.
Okay.
He was like the resident conservative in our discussion groups. So, but anyway, one thing led to another. I was kind of at a crossroads where I came to the conclusion that atheism was untenable.
Okay.
But even though I believed that, still didn't really address. It didn't necessarily mean that I believed any religion was true. So I had to look into that myself. And instead of just starting with any religion, I figured I'd start with Christianity, and then Judaism, and then, whatever it took, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't really have a plan for if I didn't believe anything was going to be true. So that was kind of like a sticky spot for a moment.
Okay.
But I listened to a lot of people talk about Christianity, from Roman Catholicism to Eastern Orthodox. And then, sorry, Charlie, I didn't really give Protestantism a chance, but yeah.
Hey, Charlie, you can just head nod. Do you watch a lot of Redeemed Zoomer?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, he pops up in my feed.
Yeah, he pops up pretty frequently for me too.
Sounds pretty cool, though.
Redeemed Zoomer?
For real, for real.
He's a Presbyterian, so I don't know how you're gonna feel about.
Never mind. He sucks. I hate him.
He has an interesting platform. His whole focus is he calls it the Reconquista, even though that's
That's Spanish. I'm really
that's
confused.
the Catholic thing. But his whole idea is that the mainline Protestant church has become the mainline Protestant churches because he's kind of nominalist. So he believes that Presbyterian is the one true faith.
They
But
always do, man. I'm telling you.
yeah, but he accepts he accepts like Lutheranism and like Anglicanism to be valid enough, to call them
Cool.
Christians,
Solid.
So his idea
Appreciate
is politically shifting the liberal mainline churches into conservatism. That's his whole platform.
Works for me. I grew up in a blue Lutheran church. Not a big fan of that. But
Yeah. But I guess a little bit about my background. I'm from the Louisiana area. Technically, I was baptized Catholic as an infant. My mom converted to Baptist, and I was kind of raised in that my whole life. I never really vibed with it. It was a tradition that it's hard to feel God, when there's like the fog machine and the electric guitar. It's, I can't quite understand how this is supposed to be something that's sacred and ancient when some dude in cargo shorts and a Hawaiian shirt is doing like dad jokes and like a stand-up comedy bit for maybe 45 minutes.
I don't see the problem.
so far, you've taken shots at both of the churches I've gone to.
So I was interested in converting into Catholicism probably throughout most of my childhood because it always felt like it was like, the religion, of my ancestors, and, it at least tries to tie itself back to Christ, versus, being in like a non-denominational or a Baptist setting where there's no even pretense. It's all just ideas. There's no tradition. There's no connective tissue. So I was interested in becoming Catholic. Then I think it was I was holding out for a lot of time though because it would have been something that caused tension with my mom. I was planning on maybe during college, but then I don't know if you're familiar with the Pachamama scandal with Pope Francis.
Oh,
There's
Francis
a
again.
wait, Charlie, you know about it? Okay. Yeah, basically the gist of it, there's an Amazonian world goddess called Pachamama. She's like the equivalent of like Gaia, in Greek mythology. That like a literal idol. I'm not even doing like the lame Protestant thing where it's like, a depiction of Saint Mary, a depiction of Christ as an idol, like a literal pagan god in an hypostasis, literal idolatry as Moses understood it. He received it from a shaman during a synod. It was supposed to address sort of pastoral issues in the Amazonian region. He accepted this pagan idol, and then he brought it to St. Peter's Basilica, put it on the altar, and then held liturgies with it present. And then there was some initial confusion whether or not it was a primitive depiction of the Virgin Mary and it was just tasteless. But he actually released a post-synodal apostolic exhortation, paragraph number 88 of that. He addresses that it's not a Christian image, but his justification is that it's fine because you can just take non-Christian stuff and do with it and make it Christian, kind of glossing over, a Christmas tree isn't the same as like a pagan idol. There's differences. But seeing that and seeing some of the loss of the liturgical tradition kind of put some seeds of doubt towards Catholicism. So I ended up coming across Eastern Orthodoxy mostly through liturgical music. They just come across on YouTube, kind of piqued my interest. And then I kind of just showed up to the local parish in my hometown, the only Orthodox church that, was within driving distance of like my parents' house. This was all during college too. I was like I started attending like June of 2020, and so I kind of just showed up, started attending, got received a year later, and it just so happened that my spiritual father just so happened to be a niche internet micro celebrity. So that's pretty much me.
Gotcha.
Let's see. What about yourself, Charlie?
So I'm the resident Lutheran.
Okay.
Grew up going to an ELCA church. I'm from Nebraska.
Okay.
Went to a conservative Lutheran high school. And now I'm in college, and I go to a non-denominational Baptist evangelical megachurch
There you
with
go.
electric guitars.
You don't have any Lutheran churches in your area?
They do.
But it's because they've turned lib.
It sort of is. There's a few. I just haven't gone to them.
Okay.
All my friends go to the non-denominational one, so
Okay.
except for wishing communion was more often.
Yeah. I don't know of any Orthodox churches in that area.
Well, I'm in Ames for school, Ames, Iowa. And there's one Bulgarian
Okay.
Orthodox church here.
Yeah.
I've gone once. It's nice.
Yeah, mine, the one I attend is Antiochian, so it comes out of the Middle Eastern tradition of like Lebanon, Syria, Jordan. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, Antonio.
Yo.
What are your thoughts on sort of your delving into the Noahide movement? Like how do you see your place in that? I'm curious.
Doing it before it's cool.
You what?
It's like I'm doing it before it's cool.
You're doing it for it because it's cool?
Before it's cool.
Doing it before it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like there's no, as far as I know, any like official Noahide congregations. Or if there are, it's definitely not widespread at all.
Okay.
Something that Judaism hasn't they have yet to seriously engage with it. I mean, that's not entirely true. There are Orthodox
They're
Jewish
Chabad
rabbis who
rabbis.
are, but it's not like widespread.
Yeah. Yeah, like, do you have like a prayer life? Do you go to some kind of church or?
I go to the local Chabad synagogue,
Okay.
and there's a lot of prayers that we can use as Noahides from the Jewish prayer book, but also just like the general prayers that you can pull from like Psalms or
Okay. You feel any interest in even converting to Judaism or just staying in Noahide?
No, because there really is no need to convert. It's like you already have a place. I sympathize with those people who feel like a really strong calling to convert.
Yeah.
And if I did feel that way, I probably would. But so far, pretty happy being a Gentile within Judaism.
Well, you're liking, because I know there's a great deal of like wiggle room in that. Like you can,
You mean
there's
as far
there's more
as-
freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like technically you're not even permitted to keep like Sabbath.
Oh yeah, that's been like a big topic in this corner. There's a Rabbi Bradowitz video that was pretty big regarding halacha for Noahides.
Yeah.
It actually kind of blew my mind, honestly, the last 5 minutes of that video.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting him to go so far to say that Noahide should make it a special day.
They should.
Yeah, but not honor it like Jews.
Okay.
Yeah, he's very specific in his wording. It was just like a big deal because if there's different levels like can, should, must, all the stuff about Noahides has always fallen in the category of can,
Yeah.
and he used the should word.
Okay.
So that was kind of a big word. Like, I mean, it was a big deal. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. I've never been to a synagogue service.
And yeah, Hezy's right. It's definitely not clear regarding Shabbat.
Oh, has he still in the chat? I haven't seen him. Okay, there it is. Scroll down. I have to scroll down a bit.
But like I said, I wasn't even expecting that opinion coming from someone like Rabbi Breidowitz.
Yeah. So do you have like, are you like being pastored by your rabbi? Like, does he give you like frequent spiritual guidance, or does he kind of just point you in a direction and turn you loose?
Oh, well, for right now, I'm still getting like I'm still developing a relationship with him in the synagogue.
Yeah.
It's pretty new, fairly recent, and I've had a lot come up in my personal life where, like, for example, I just had a child, and before I took leave from work, I was working 2 jobs at the same time, and it was hard to make time for going to synagogue.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's
Yeah.
been great. Yeah. Highly recommend it, by the way. Getting married and having kids.
Yeah. How long have you been married?
Well, depends, because like there's different definitions for, well, for a Noahide to be considered married, it's pretty straightforward. It's like 2 people have the intention to marry. The man, what do you call it? Invites. This is gonna sound weird. This is not the right wording, but invites the woman to his home, like a public place that everybody knows, and then they consummate the marriage, and it's like done. But it definitely comes with like it's highly recommended that you also do the legal part too.
Yeah.
So
Technically, in Orthox Christianity, a marriage has not occurred until the consummation has occurred. The entire wedding service, though, is just the blessings that culminate in that, sort of ritually uniting the couple in a way where they can, it's preparing them for consummation sacramentally.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, we have yet to really plan for a concrete date for the ceremony, but we're shooting for next spring. So
you have like a Noahide one?
Yeah, there's a website with all these resources for like Noahide weddings and like frequently asked questions, and there's a whole document for a Noahide wedding.
Okay. What does that look like?
Oh, good question. I'll let you know when I actually look at the document. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming a rabbi would preside over that.
Yeah. Yeah. I did ask Jacob if he would do it, and he said he would. In case I couldn't get a rabbi.
Yeah.
So.
But let's see. I find that I feel like there's a lot of nuance because is your wife like on board with all of the Noahide thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is she herself?
I would classify her as a religious nun. NONE. The category of people that believe in God but don't affiliate with a religion.
Okay.
She's more into that category.
Okay. So like,
but when we met, sorry, what were you saying?
Like a deist of some kind?
No, not even a deist. She goes further than a deist. She actually like prays to God and whatnot. So
It's
My
interesting.
parents were both the same way too.
Yeah.
I was just raised in a secular household for the most part.
Yeah, both my parents were raised Catholic. My dad was an altar boy growing up. He grew up during like a lot of the Vatican II implementations, and so you kind of have like the whole hippie Catholic movement where the church is trying not to take itself too seriously, and so I think some of that is kind of the reason why a lot of people in his generation they become much more nominalist and like lukewarm. They disconnected from Catholicism because of that.
Yeah, I kind of see my parents as people who they didn't want to give up God just because religion disappointed them.
Yeah.
So
But my dad never fully left it. My mom was the one who actually converted.
yeah, I'd say with my mom in particular, she was probably closer to still being very loosely affiliated with a church.
Yeah.
But my dad definitely no, he never really went to church since I can recall.
Yeah. Let's see, have you guys read The Religion of the Apostles?
No.
I highly recommend. It's it's Father Stephen's first book, but a lot of the he kind of goes into depth on sort of how Orthodox Christianity and Second Temple Judaism, leading all the way, back to Moses, really is just the same religion. That's the truth claim that he's making there specifically.
Spicy claim?
It is a spicy claim. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Father Stephen, it was the first time I heard about Paul within Judaism.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's an interesting move. I don't know if it works.
Acts 21, St. Paul, went into the temple and offered a sin offering.
I know it's like, well, if it's true, then it's like, well, I guess Christianity, as we know it, kind of got it wrong for the last couple thousand years.
Well, no, not Christianity as a whole. I definitely would say sort of the dispensationalists got it wrong more so. And that's more of the Calvinist side. It's just American, like Calvinism permeates like a lot of American culture.
So and what would you say about Catholicism?
Catholicism?
Yeah.
Well, Catholicism isn't really like the American religion. I mean, at least in Lafayette, it has a major presence, like where I'm from. But
I mean, do you think they got it wrong too? That's what I'm asking.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Let's see.
Because they don't just go back to the 16.
No, they're equally as antique. The problem is that
that's a big
as you get into like Western scholasticism, I mean, as you get into like medieval scholasticism, you kind of start to see sort of Platonic thought kind of take over more and more, and that influences some of the theology bit by bit. It's for Catholics, they fell away from the faith in increments when sorry, Charlie, but Protestants kind of started on the wrong foot. Because most of like Lutheran thought kind of comes from like Erasmus. Like a lot of the early like sola scriptura stuff is kind of him aping off of Erasmus's comments about sort of the bishops and the scholars kind of holding monopoly, when really the people should have more of a populist approach to biblical sort of understanding.
So then naturally, this means that you also think the Jewish tradition is wrong too, right?
So it depends what you mean by the Jewish tradition. Like
Like oral
you mean
Torah,
like
rabbinic Judaism,
yeah,
Pharisaic Judaism,
yeah, definitely. I mean,
and
it's
then, well, sorry, go
because
ahead.
technically it is the religion of like the Pharisees. It's Pharisaic Judaism, and typically, like from what I've learned from Father Stephen, technically, I don't have anything. I'm just saying, and I'm making that modifier because I don't really have any sort of evidence to back up this claim. This is the assertion that I've been told, is that a lot of rabbinic Judaism, in terms of like their stance on like especially iconography is a great example, was a reaction against Christians. There were some reactionary elements at play that did kind of shift them. They had to distinguish themselves away from the Christians. So I am comfortable in saying that Judaism has changed, over the course of like the past 2,000 years.
But not Orthodox Christianity.
No, I'd say Orthodox Christianity has not changed. And I'm comfortable with that because because the other thing too is that within the apostolic tradition, we have canon law and we have ecumenical councils that have kind of set sort of the boundaries of orthodoxy and heterodoxy.
You don't think that was present in Judaism?
You mean like present Judaism is not within the bounds of Orthodox Christianity?
No, you don't think there is any like checks and balances on what was considered Orthodox in Judaism in the same way?
There's mostly debates among the rabbis, and like Jacob said earlier, the Talmud we have the Greek understanding of what he means by Talmud is like ephronima, or like the mindset or the hermeneutic. We obviously disagree with their hermeneutic, but even to this day, there is still contention, like with different rabbis. Like some rabbis can't even, decide whether or not Cliffoth come from like Gevura or Malchut.
Well, I will say, and this probably will be like the last thing I can say before I have to go to bed.
Yeah, it's 1:00 here.
Coming as an outsider to both the religions, it seemed kind of obvious to me that Judaism has the leg up on Christianity when it comes to oral transmission, and the tradition, and just as far as like how thorough the record keeping went. I think if you look at, well, this is obviously like a big topic, but I think it's not convincing to me that Christianity can make the claim that it's the true continuation of Judaism. I'm talking about Judaism as it, like, what people speculate was the original Judaism.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's not even like the biggest reason why. That's actually, if I had a top 10 list of reasons in order of like importance of why I don't think Christianity is true, that'd probably be like towards the top as far as least important.
Okay.
Like the bigger issues would be like, I mean, in Torah, it's pretty straightforward that everybody has direct access to God, and there never needed to be a mediator.
Levitical priesthood?
Not like Jesus.
What? No, I mean, like, think about this. What you mean by direct access to God? You mean everyone can pray?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone in Orthodox Christianity can pray.
And repent.
Yes, we can pray and repent. So I don't see how when you say that Christians have too much mediation, what do you mean?
No, because in Christianity, Jesus is like the way to the Father, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you need Jesus? Tell me why, as an Orthodox Christian, do you need Jesus in the picture?
Okay. So
This is your big chance, Jules. Don't screw it up.
So a lot of this goes back to our understanding of unexpectedly iconography. I mean, I know I'm Orthodox, everything is iconography. You know, we're broken records about that. But Christ is the express and perfect image of God the Father. And so God the Father is completely and totally, transcendent. Christ in his mediation is a condescension of God the Father, sort of what we can interface, like even in Exodus, you see Moses asking to see God in his full glory, and God says that it's too much for you, like you'll die.
Okay.
And then we even see death by holiness from even lesser divinized sort of even the Ark of the Covenant, just touching it, will kill you. So Christ is a condescension that allows us to interact with God the Father, and because he's the express image, so he participates in everything that God the Father does. He perfectly synergizes with him, and he allows us to interact with God the Father without the full glory and majesty of God killing us or driving us mad too, because that was,
So you can't do that without Jesus. Is what you're saying?
Yes. Because also, once again, like Moses needed like a mediator in Exodus when he's on the mountain.
Okay.
So I'm just saying it is Jewish,
Is it
requirement.
Jewish?
It is. Well, okay, so what was going on in the mountain? What was going on in Exodus when Moses asked to see God in his full glory, and then God said no, but he's still talking to God face to face? Like, what's happening there?
Well, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, like you said, interact, right? Like you need Jesus to interact with God. But like, that's not really the sales pitch for Jesus that I hear.
So,
Like, what's the importance of interacting with God? I guess is what I'm asking.
So you're saying, what is the importance of interacting with God? Do you mean God? Because Christ is a condescension of God the Father, so that's how God engages with us. All of our prayers are directed to God the Father, but due to his highly transcendent nature, for us to even comprehend, the will of, or what's going on with God, or to speak with God, like for God to speak to me, or not necessarily, because Christ doesn't really appear to me, but at least for Moses, definitely Moses, for him to sit face to face next to God, he can't do that with God the Father due to how transcendent he is. So Christ is the condescension.
I
He's
hate
the
to do
mediator.
this, but I do have to go.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
The baby's up, but I'd
Yeah.
actually like to talk about this more.
I'd
I
say,
obviously fundamentally disagree, but
I'd say read Religion of the Apostles, and then you can disagree with that, and I'm going to go to bed too.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, nice meeting you, Jules.
Nice meeting you, sir.
Good to see you, Charlie.
Nice to meet you, Charlie. Good
Take
night.
it easy.